Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some amazing music today, specifically Morna music from Cape Verde.
Oh, that's a great choice.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at excerpts from the Cabo Verde and a Musica Museu virtual.
Oh, the online museum?
Yeah, exactly. A whole museum dedicated to Cape Verdean music.
Cool.
And to spice things up even more, we're going to be looking at a contemporary guitarist named César Lima.
Oh, nice.
Who carries on that Morna tradition. So get ready, folks. We're about to unpack some soulful sounds.
Yeah, Morn is fascinating. I mean, it goes beyond just the music, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's like the heart and soul of Cape Verdean history and identity.
You're right. And the online museum, it sets the scene so well with this quote from Manuel Ferreira. He describes Cape Verdean music as a people beaten by adversity, singing or exalting tenderness.
Wow.
Pretty powerful, right?
It really is.
It hints at that depth of emotion that I'm really curious to explore.
And that depth comes from a really, really complex history, a history of hardship and resilience. I mean, a history just intertwined with immigration and separation.
Yeah.
So you get this melancholic feel in Morna.
Okay, so I can definitely sense that melancholic vibe, but like, what about the actual sound? What are we listening for?
So think of a slow, soulful rhythm.
Okay.
The museum compares it to Portuguese fado, you know, like their version of the blues.
Right.
But Morna also has echoes of Brazilian samba canção.
Oh, okay.
So there's a richness and warmth there as well. It evokes this feeling of saudade, you know?
Ooh, so dumb.
Like a longing for something lost or someone far away.
Yeah, that's a feeling I can definitely relate to. And speaking of reaching people, you know that Morna got some serious recognition back in 2019.
You're talking about the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage designation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was huge, not just for Cape Verde, but for recognizing, I guess, the power of music to connect across cultures. It put Morna on the world stage, really.
Wow, I never knew that. That's incredible. Now, something I find really intriguing is that no one seems to know exactly where Morna came from.
I know, right?
A musical mystery.
It's a musical mystery. The museum mentions some possible influences, like work songs, rhythms from North Africa, that sado we talked about. Even a Brazilian genre called modinha, which is known for its sentimental melodies.
Oh, okay.
But ultimately, no one can definitively say, here's where Morna was born.
It just adds another layer of intrigue, doesn't it?
It does.
Like a musical puzzle waiting to be solved.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of puzzles, let's try to piece together how Morna has evolved, over time. The museum takes us all the way back to the 1800s, and apparently, Morna wasn't always even about music.
No. It seems like back then, Morna was more about a social gathering, a place where people would, come together to sing, dance, and share stories. Imagine, like a warm Cape Verdean night, music filling the air. The word Morna representing that feeling of connection, shared experience. It wasn't tied to a specific musical style yet.
Wow. So the meaning of the word itself evolved along with the music. That's fascinating. And it sounds like not everyone was on board with Morna as a musical genre, initially. The museum mentions this band leader in Praia, Mr. Guimarães, who flat out refused to play it in the early 1900s because, get this, the word Morna wasn't even in the dictionary.
Can you imagine that today? A musician refusing to play something because it's not officially recognized? Shows how the perception of Morna has changed over time, right?
Yeah.
Back then, I guess some people considered it less refined,
Right.
compared to European classical music.
Yeah.
A view that obviously didn't age well.
I love those little glimpses into how music reflects change in social attitudes. It adds so much depth to the story. But getting back to Morna's origins, the museum suggests that the island of Boa Vista might hold some clues.
Yeah, Boa Vista is interesting. It was a hub for trade and cultural exchange, like a real melting pot. So it's plausible that Morna, with its blend of influences, could have emerged from that vibrant mix of cultures.
A place where people from all walks of life exchanged stories, musical ideas, and created something new. Now let's fast forward to the late 19th century.
Sure.
The museum introduces us to a figure who really shaped Morna's development, Eugenio Tavares.
Tavares was from Brava, the island of immigrants, a place with, history of people leaving their homeland, searching for a better life.
Yeah.
And that feeling of longing, of being separated from loved ones and home, it became central to his work.
Right.
He was a poet and composer. injected Morna with this incredible depth of emotion and lyricism.
Sounds like he captured the essence of Saudade in his music. And those themes, like love, longing, separation, those are so universal. No wonder Morna continues to resonate with people across cultures. But it wasn't just Tavares who shaped Morna's sound.
Right.
The museum also mentions Beleza from São Vicente. What was his contribution?
Beleza comes along in the 1920s and just kind of shakes things up. Imagine, inspired by Brazilian guitarists. He brought this new harmonic complexity to Morna.
Okay.
Added a layer of sophistication that really elevated the genre. You can hear his influence in Morna to this day.
It's like he took those core emotions of Morna and gave him a richer, more expressive musical language. And I gotta say, it's really cool how Morna's evolution kind of mirrors Cape Verde's history of cultural exchange, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a local phenomenon, it's a product of global influences blended together. But the museum points out a bit of a paradox, too. The colonial government actually promoted Morna while suppressing other genres like batuque and funa.
Yeah, it seems they saw Morna as a way to project a certain image of Cape Verdean culture.
Right.
One that kind of aligned with their colonial agenda.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing. Even though Morna was being used in this way, freedom fighters embraced it too.
Wow.
Used its soulful melodies and poetic lyrics to convey messages of resistance and longing for independence.
So it could be both a tool of colonial influence and a vehicle for expressing the desire for liberation.
Exactly.
That speaks to the adaptability and power of music, huh? So we've journeyed through the origins and evolution of Morna. Now, let's meet a modern-day artist who's keeping this tradition alive. César Lima.
Lima's story is fascinating. It's a blend of personal passion and cultural heritage.
Yeah.
He began his musical journey in Mindelo, on the island of São Vicente. Learned to play guitar in secret on his grandfather's instrument.
Really? In secret?
Classic tale of a hidden talent waiting to be discovered.
That's incredible. Learning guitar in secret. You can just picture him sneaking into a room, picking up that instrument, falling in love with the sound. I bet his grandfather was ecstatic when he found out.
Yeah, bro.
But Lima's musical interest didn't stop there, did they?
No, not at all. He embraced jazz and classical music, showing a real curiosity for exploring different sounds. And then he headed to the U.S. in his 20s.
That's a big step. How did his time in the U.S. shape his musical path?
The museum doesn't go into a lot of detail, but it does mention him accompanying various artists, performing live, even playing in a band called Uprising during the 90s. Wow. So it seems like he immersed himself in that diverse American music scene.
Absorbed new influences? Honed his skills?
Yeah.
I can only imagine the wealth of experiences he gained during that time. And speaking of experiences, let's talk about his albums. The museum highlights two in particular. Reflections from 2004 and Guitarra from 2011. What can you tell us about them?
Reflections is special. It features Lima's mother singing.
Oh!
He even produced 2 albums for his aunt.
Wow!
Really highlights the strong family ties in his musical journey.
That's so heartwarming. It speaks volumes about how music can connect generations and strengthen family bonds. And Guitarra, what kind of sound can we expect from that one?
Well, Lima is, deeply rooted in Morna, but his music reflects his diverse influences, incorporating elements of jazz, classical, even hints of that American music scene that he was part of.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about a true fusion of styles.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's creating something truly unique while staying connected to his Cape Verdean roots. It really makes me want to hear these albums for myself. So where's César Lima at on his musical journey today?
Well, he's currently living in Praia, the capital of Cape Verde.
Okay.
Performing live and sharing his interpretations of various musical styles online.
That's fantastic. Sounds like he's actively keeping the spirit of Morna alive while continuing to explore new creative avenues. Now, we can't talk about Morna without acknowledging all the other musicians who have contributed to its rich history. The museum mentions a whole constellation of Morna figures, each representing a piece of the genre's legacy.
That's right. We're about to embark on a whirlwind tour of Morna masters, from, early pioneers to contemporary artists.
I'm ready. Let's dive into the world of these musical giants, and we'll uncover their stories in part 2.
All right, you ready for that whirlwind tour of Morna masters we promised? We're going to be jumping between islands and across decades, so hold on tight.
Oh, I am buckled up and ready for the ride. I'm already picturing a musical map of Cape Verde, with all these amazing artists and their connections.
I love that. I love that visual. And the museum gives us a great starting point with those foundational figures from the early 20th century.
Right.
Think of composers like Jose Bernardo Alfama.
Okay.
His work really captured that raw, early Morna sound. Then you have, figures like Jose Medina, Edwina Nunez, Wilson Nunez, each adding their own flourishes to the genre.
So many names. It's amazing how they kind of collectively shaped those early sounds of Morna. And of course, we can't forget Eugenio Tavares.
Oh, right.
We already talked about how he brought that heart-wrenching depth to Morna's lyrics, but he wasn't alone, was he?
No way.
Yeah.
Alongside Tavares, you have Rodrigo Perez and João José Nunes enriching that musical landscape. And then, of course, there's our innovator from São Vicente, Beleza.
Right.
Remember how he brought those sophisticated harmonies? Influenced by the Brazilian guitarists to the forefront.
It's like we're tracing the evolution of Morna through these key players. And the museum doesn't stop there. They mention Manuel de Novas, Leila de Maninha, Olavo Bilac, Jotamonte, Ano Novo. The list goes on. It's like a who's who of mid-20th century Morna.
Yeah, really. They represent a continuation of Morna's development.
Yeah.
They explored new themes while staying true to that soulful core of the genre. And then there's Abilio Duarte. His music played a crucial role during the fight for independence from colonial rule.
Wow. His music must have been incredibly powerful during that era. It's amazing how Morna could be both a source of comfort and a rallying cry for freedom. And I'm seeing even more names on this list. Jorginho, Betu, Nila Spencer. It seems like every island had its own Morna stars.
Exactly. And as we move into the later part of the 20th century, we encounter artists who brought Morna to like a wider audience.
Oh.
Quito Pérez, Toy Vieira, Luis Lima, who often collaborated with other musicians like Paulino Vieira, Vice, and Ramiro Mendes.
It's like each generation passes the torch to the next, keeping the flame of Morna burning brightly. But we've been focusing on composers and musicians. What about the singers?
Oh, yeah.
Those incredible voices that bring Morna to life.
Right. We can't forget the singers. Get ready for some serious vocal power. First up, we have Bana, whose music is considered, essential listening for any Morna fan.
Yeah.
His discography is extensive.
Yeah.
And his voice just perfectly embodies that soulful, melancholic sound.
Bana's going straight on my playlist. And who else should I be adding? What about the singers who brought Morna beyond Cape Verde's shores?
Well, there's Fernando Quejas,
Okay.
a true pioneer. He was one of the first to introduce Morna to audiences in Portugal.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 60s. Really paved the way for others to follow.
That's incredible, taking Morna to new audiences, sharing that Cape Verdean sound with the world. And the museum also mentions Ildo Lobo.
Oh, Ildo Lobo.
Yeah.
He was the lead vocalist of Os Tubarões, one of Cape Verde's most beloved bands.
Oh, okay.
They gained international recognition in the 70s and 80s. And Lobo's captivating voice was a major part of their success. He later embarked on a successful solo career as well,
Yeah, okay.
further solidifying his place as a Morna legend.
It sounds like he had an incredible stage presence. But we can't talk about Morna singers without mentioning the queen herself, Cesaria Evora.
Oh, absolutely. Cesaria Evora, a true icon, known as the Barefoot Diva,
Yeah.
because she often performed barefoot,
Right.
symbolizing her connection to the poverty that she experienced growing up. Her voice was raw, soulful, deeply moving. Really, it was through her music that Morna truly reached a global audience.
Her story is so inspiring. From humble beginnings to international stardom, she really became an ambassador for Cape Verdean culture. What I find particularly fascinating is that, she didn't achieve widespread fame until she was in her 40s. It's a testament to her talent and perseverance.
Right.
But Cesaria wasn't the only powerful female voice in Morna, was she?
Definitely not. Alongside Cesaria, you have Herminia, known for her strong, distinctive vocal style. And then there's Titina, Gardini Benros, Anna Firmino, Maria Alice, each adding their own unique flavor to the Morna tradition.
It's amazing to see how many talented women have shaped the sound of Morna. They brought their own experiences and perspectives to the genre, enriching it with their artistry, and the legacy continues, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Artists like Selena Pereira, Nancy Vieira, Lura, Solange Cesarovna are keeping the spirit of Morna alive for new generations.
Right.
They're blending traditional sounds with contemporary influences, and ensuring that the genre continues to evolve.
It's so inspiring to see how Morna adapts and thrives while staying connected to its roots. Are there any rising stars on the horizon?
The museum gives a shout out to Camilda Medina and Lucibella,
Oh.
two incredibly talented artists who are making waves on the contemporary Morna scene.
Awesome.
They're pushing boundaries and captivating audiences with their unique interpretations of this timeless genre.
Wow, it sounds like the future of Morna is in good hands. I'm definitely adding those names to my listening list. It's incredible to see how this genre has evolved from those early gatherings to like a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
But before we get lost in the music, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned about Morna so far.
Okay.
We've explored the mysterious origins of Morna, tracing its evolution from a social gathering to a distinct musical style. We've met key figures like Eugenio Tavares and Bileza, who shaped the genre's sound and lyrical depth. And we've discovered a whole constellation of incredibly talented musicians and singers who've carried the torch of Morna across generations and continents.
Yeah, it's like we've taken a musical journey through Cape Verdean history,
Right.
uncovering the heart and soul of Morna along the way.
And through it all, we've seen how this music reflects a culture marked by hardship, resilience, and an enduring love for beautiful melodies and poetic lyrics.
And let's not forget César Lima, the contemporary guitarist who kind of bridges the gap between tradition and innovation,
Right.
carrying the torch of Morna into the future.
His story is a testament to the enduring power of musical heritage and the creative spirit that keeps Morna alive and evolving. But before we wrap up, I'd love to delve a little deeper into the idea of how music reflects a culture's history and soul.
That's a great segue into our final part.
Perfect.
We'll explore those connections in more detail and maybe even uncover some personal reflections along the way.
As we've been talking about Morna and César Lima's journey, I've been thinking about all the different types of connections that keep popping up, It's like this intricate web woven through the music.
It's true. You have that connection to history, to culture, to family, even connections that stretch across, oceans and continents. Morna kind of acts as a bridge between all these elements.
A bridge, that's a great way to put it. And the themes that Morna explores, like love, longing, separation, and homecoming, those are universal, Those are experiences that everyone goes through.
Absolutely. They tap into something deeply human, something we can all relate to,
Yeah.
regardless of our background.
Yeah.
And the way Morna has been passed down through generations, from the early pioneers to artists like César Lima. It's like a continuous chain of connection,
Yeah.
like in past, present, and future.
And that chain, it reaches far beyond Cape Verde. Think about Cecilia Evora, how she brought Morna to the world stage. Suddenly, people who had never even heard of these islands were being moved by this music.
Right.
It's amazing how music can transcend borders and create those kinds of connections.
It's a beautiful example of music's power to unite us. Now, I'm curious, as we've kind of delved into the world of Morna, what has stood out to you?
Oh,
Was there like a particular story or fact or musical element that really resonated?
I think what struck me the most was that sense of community that surrounds Morna,
Yeah.
It's not just music, it's a shared experience. It brings people together.
Right.
From those early gatherings we talked about to concerts in Praia today, I feel like Morna creates a sense of belonging, shared heritage.
I completely agree. And for me, I think what's been most fascinating is Morna's resilience,
Uh-huh.
Despite being suppressed during that colonial era,
Right.
not only did it survive, it thrived. And it became a powerful symbol of Cape Verdean identity.
Yeah, yeah.
Shows the enduring power of art and culture to resist, to overcome adversity.
And that spirit of resilience continues today. With artists like César Lima who are blending traditional Morna with other influences, keeping the music fresh and relevant for new audiences.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that the story of Morna is still being written.
Yeah.
Every new generation adds its own chapter, ensuring that this beautiful and soulful music continues to evolve and connect people across the globe.
So to our listener, we encourage you to, continue exploring the world of Morna. Seek out the artists we've discussed. Listen to their music. Let yourself be transported to the heart of Cape Verdean culture.
And as you listen, remember those connections we've talked about. Connections to history, to culture, to family, and to the universal human experiences that Morna so beautifully expresses.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep listening, and let the power of music connect you to something truly special.